Now the boots I have for you today are one that I haven't really covered all that much on the channel, and it is the Adidas Copa 20.1 that I have here in the latest Locality Pack colorway in this extremely bright neon yellow. Now something that I wanted to clarify in this video is in regards to what a lot of people think that I think about the Copa 20.1, and that is that I don't think it's a very good pair of football boots. That's not necessarily true, and I want to explain why that is in today's video, because while they're definitely not my personal favorite, I'm not going to lie about that, I still think there's a lot on offer, and considering the fact that this is the least expensive top-end model from the Adidas brand, if you don't count the classic Copa Mundial, I definitely think there is some value for money to be had from the Copa 20.1, especially considering the fact it's not that popular and you can regularly get them pretty deeply discounted. So if you want to learn more about these, including how they fit and feel on feet, please stick around and watch the entire review. And if you're interested in a pair for yourself, I'll leave a little pop-up on screen, or you can click the first link down below. That's going to take you to the review page on my website, where you'll find buy it now links with exclusive SR4U coupon codes to pick these up below their normal $210 retail price. Also, if you guys do end up enjoying this video, please support it with a like. It goes a long way. And if you're new here watching for the first time and don't want to miss out on weekly videos on everything football boots, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Very quickly, I just wanted to take a closer look at the colorway. Of course, this is part of the new Locality Pack that has had kind of a weird release. It's out in North America. It's not out in Europe. I'm sure that'll change in the near future, but the releases at this point are kind of all over the place. Either way, they are extremely bright. And I said neon yellow in the intro. It's kind of in between neon yellow and neon green, depending on the lighting. I think in this video, it might end up looking a little bit more green, but just to give you guys a side-by-side comparison, here are the Nike MDS2 Mercurials, which I think are pretty clearly a neon yellow. And when you see them side by side, the Copas definitely look a little bit more green, but that green color is basically what is scattered across the entire upper. There's not a single accent whatsoever, and the only little bit of design that you have here is this kind of paint splatter fade type situation that happens around the edges of the ankle, which quite honestly, it almost looks like it's a defect, like there's some kind of delamination happening between the fuse and the mesh itself. So I'm not in love with the way that it looks, but it's a very subtle detail. And honestly, the main reason why you would buy these is to stand out, because the color is extremely flashy. Also, Copa 20.1, unlike the 20 Plus, does not have a wearable sole plate finish. This is just green plastic. As for the performance side of things, I think the question that I want to answer in this video is, was I wrong about the Copa 20.1? Or at the very least, has my opinion changed on them? Because I don't think my opinion is as negative as a lot of people have made it out to be. Just because I'm not overwhelmingly positive about every single thing doesn't mean I think it's a bad pair of boots, because actually I quite like the Copa 20.1, and I think by far the highlight feature here is the kangaroo leather upper that you have basically from the forefoot forward. You can see a little bit of the seams here. They don't hide it quite as much on the 20.1 as they do on the Plus. It ends right about there, goes all the way through the forefoot and toe box area, and then cuts off right around this area on the medial side. So the front half of the boot, I'll say, is made out of leather, where the entire top of the foot, where you have the tongue, as well as most of the midfoot and heel area, is not made out of a prime knit material. Instead, it's made out of this kind of fuse mesh. So it's a little bit different than what you'll find on the Copa 20 Plus, but the upper as a whole is still branded as fusion skin. Now, the quality of the leather is fantastic, just as good as what you'll find on the Laceless Plus model. It's super soft, it's super plush. It's honestly some of the nicest leather you'll find on any football boot in this category. So I'm really impressed with that. The feel and comfort in this area of the foot, I think, is fantastic. Unfortunately, it's everything that's happening in the areas that aren't leather that I'm not as crazy about. They've gone with this kind of stiffer material, which does play its part in terms of giving you a nice locked in kind of responsive sensation, but it also makes the boot feel, I think, a little bit more stiff and rigid than it should, especially through the midfoot versus its competition. Because if you compare this to something like the Nike Tiempo Legend 8 Elite or the Puma King Platinum, or even the Made in Japan Mizuno Rebula 3, even the non-Made in Japan variation, I really feel like all of those boots, maybe the quality of the leather isn't quite the same as this, depending on what your opinion is, but as an overall package, I just find all of those boots to feel a lot better on feet versus the Copa 20.1, and that's just due to the unnecessary stiffness that Adidas has gone for with this particular design. And I think a huge part of that is also the way that they did the tongue. Obviously with the laceless one, they went for something ambitious. With the 20.1, I really feel like it should have been a more traditional tongue. Instead, they went with a burrito style tongue, where normally it would kind of flow from the upper on the medial side across the top of the foot. This flows from the lateral side, so it's a reverse burrito style tongue, if you will. And the tongue itself is made out of this, like I said, kind of firm, kind of, I guess, mesh-based synthetic material. It's not that it doesn't soften up as you wear them in, and it's not that it's uncomfortable when you wear them, but I just don't like how this feels against my foot. It takes away from, I think, the softness and natural sensation that a lot of people anticipate from a football boot like this. And again, in comparison to all of its competitors, which use either a leather tongue or a much softer, more flexible material across the top of the foot, I just think it makes for a better overall experience. Also, because of the way that they designed this, the opening around the ankle, obviously it's a low cut design, is very, very, I guess, flared. So it doesn't really grab the sides of your ankle as tightly as I think it should. They added a little bit of kind of padding on the sides of the ankle, similar to the Plus model. So I guess there's some added protection to be had there, but I just feel like the boot ends up feeling a little bit bulky towards the rear half than it really needed to be. They went for something that kind of has this mock collar design, whereas if they just went for something a little bit more traditional, I think it would have ultimately worked out better. Internally, the heel liner is a soft synthetic suede material, plenty of padding, no real issues with that whatsoever. And then internally, you will find an insole, and you'll also find this little elasticated stirrup there that kind of attaches to the base of the sole and holds this edge of the burrito style tongue. The only reason why that's there is just to prevent this from kind of sliding around. I guess you could technically cut that out if you really wanted to. It'd make putting the boots on and taking them off a little bit easier. I don't really think that it hurts the performance of the boot in any way. It may cause a little bit of extra kind of tightness and tension in terms of squeezing the arch of your foot. So if that's something that you find uncomfortable, in general, the added stiffness here might not be the best thing for you, but it is something that they have also added in there, which I don't think is entirely necessary. Then the insole, that's fully removable. I'll give you guys a quick look at that. It features a nice soft synthetic suede material, a little bit of added foam here in the heel where you can see it kind of bumps out, and then it's just made from a single layer of this ortholite foam. Actually a really nice pair of insoles. Moving to the sole plate and stud pattern, you're gonna find the same exo frame construction as the Laceless Plus model, which, as I've said with that boot, I'm just not a huge fan of it. It's not that this is bad in any way. It's got decent flexibility to it. It's a little bit bulkier than all the other sole plates on offer from the Adi brand right now, aside from maybe the split sole on the Nemesis, but I prefer the way that feels. This to me is just kind of uninspired. And then the stud pattern, again, kind of typical Adidas layout where the studs are placed, but the studs themselves, they're kind of a combination of like conical as well as these like half moon shaped studs. They're honestly just nothing special. It's not that the traction is bad in any way at all, but I think they could have gone for the full traditional layout or something perhaps a little bit more aggressive. This is kind of just somewhere in between. And again, not to say that it's bad, but in comparison to all of its competition, there's really nothing about this that I think stands out from a performance or feel standpoint. Which brings us to the weight, which I think is one of those features that is of a certain level of importance that varies from person to person. But again, when you're comparing the Copa 20.1 to its competition, side by side, it's not as lightweight. So if I weigh this pair for you in real time, keep in mind that this pair is a size 9.5 US. You can see that they weigh in at 8.9 ounces, the equivalent of 252 grams, which basically makes this a little over an ounce heavier, if not an ounce and a half heavier than all of its competition in the exact same size. Is that a hugely noticeable amount of weight? Yes and no. I think it's going to depend more so on the person, but again, the numbers don't lie. And just to be clear, I don't think that these are bad because they're not as light as the competition, but I think that if you're going to have that little bit of extra weight, which is fine with this style of football boot, there should be something about it, an extra level of quality or a certain feature that you get because the boot has a little bit of extra weight versus its competition. But unfortunately, this is just not as good from a quality and feel perspective, and it also happens to be heavier. So there's not really anything that justifies the extra weight with this boot. So as you can see, I've swapped out the stock yellow laces for some neon yellow and black grid pattern SR4U replacement laces, which obviously match the color, but it adds that little bit of a black detail in the form of a grid pattern, which I think looks quite cool. It's also a great way of changing up the style of your boots in a very inexpensive way. So if you're interested in some laces for yourself, the website to go to is www.sr4ulaces.com. There'll be a little pop-up on screen as well as a link down below in the description. So if you're interested in some for yourself, be sure to go ahead and check that out. On feet, the boots feel fine, but there's definitely something about these that really stands out, and that is the harsh transition between the super soft leather in the toe box and forefoot and the more rigid kind of textile-based synthetic that you have running through the midfoot as well as across the top of the foot, especially when the boots are brand new. After a little bit of wear time, that material through the midfoot does soften up pretty significantly and they get a lot more comfortable. But for me, that rigid material along with this burrito style tongue that they've gone for, it just makes the boots feel unnecessarily stiff, especially across the top of the foot, and I think takes away from what the experience of a leather football boot should be in the first place. Yes, it makes for a responsive sensation when making quick cuts and changes of direction, but from a comfort standpoint, I just don't find these anywhere as comfortable as the other options that you have in this particular category. From a fit perspective, everything fits really nicely. Again, that burrito style tongue along with the internal stirrup does make putting these on a little bit trickier than I think it needs to be, but once you have them on and the laces are tied tight, it does fit really nice. A little bit too wide in the heel in my opinion, but not something that causes any real issues. As far as width is concerned, they definitely have some decent width to them, although they're not particularly wide through the midfoot despite looking quite wide, and that's just due to how they've been cut because of the way that they did this tongue. I'm really convinced, if you haven't noticed, that if they just put a regular tongue, kind of like what we had on the Adi Pure 1, just gone really traditional, the boot would have been infinitely better. But as it stands right now, as long as you don't have super wide feet, I think these will fit most people. And as far as sizing is concerned, if you want to get these, I'm wearing them in my usual size 9.5 US, and the fit and the length is perfect. So if you're looking to order some for yourself, I would strongly recommend going true to size in order to achieve the best possible fit. So in conclusion, and maybe this might surprise some people, I can recommend the Copa 20.1. And honestly, if these were given to me to wear for the entire season, I wouldn't be upset about it. But given the choice for $200 in comparison to all the other options that you can buy, it probably wouldn't be at the top of my list. But like I said earlier in the video, because of its lack of popularity, you can often find these for $100 or less. And at that price, you absolutely cannot go wrong. From a value for money perspective, if you can pick up a Copa 20.1 or a 19.1 for $100 or less, even $120, it is a really solid pair of football boots. Anyways, guys, that's it for this one. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, be sure to support it with a like. Again, if you're interested in a pair of these for yourself, first link down below, that's going to take you to the review page on my website, where you'll find buy it now links with exclusive SR4U coupon codes to pick these up below their normal $210 retail price. If you have any questions, as always, leave them down below in the comment section, and I'll do my best to get an answer out to you. If you aren't subscribed to the channel already, make sure you hit that subscribe button along with the little bell notification so you get notified when the next new video goes live. You can find all my social media information linked down below in the description as well. And other than that, guys, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.